Welcome to The Ground Up, the podcast from Groundwork Yorkshire. I'm James Kirk, and joining me today is Simon Kilshaw, our Green Doctor Manager, to talk about damp mould and condensation. So welcome, Simon. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you.
So, Simon, could you start us off by introducing our listeners to the three types of damp that can be found in a home and what the difference is between them?
Yeah, sure. So the three main types of damp would be rising damp, and that would come from ground moisture travelling up the walls. That would be identified from things like white salts going up to approximately about like a metre up the wall. That could be caused by things like perhaps when the driveway has been raised and it's gone above the damp proof course. That could cause rising damp. It could be things like blocked drains. Then you've got something which we would call penetrating damp, and that is water leaking in from the outside through the walls, could be through the roof. It could be because of broken guttering or maybe the pointing. So it's water coming in from the outside through the fabric of the building. That would be penetrating damp. And then you've got condensation, which we see as the most prevalent form of cause of damp inside the home. And that's caused by moist air condensing on cool surfaces. And typically that's what would cause black mould inside the home.
Okay, so we've got the condensation damp in the home. Can you briefly describe what activities in the home can contribute to increased levels of moisture that contribute to that forming?
Yeah, there's a wide variety of activities that we do in the home that contribute to increased moisture levels. Approximately between 10 and 20 litres of moisture is created just by our everyday activities per day in the home. So things like breathing, for example, one of the things that we might not think would contribute to moisture, but it contributes significantly. So just that everyday breathing, if we have pets, they breathe as well. That contributes to moisture inside the home. Then we've got more obvious ones, things like cooking. So where we're cooking, we've got pans which have no lids perhaps, so that's also contributing to a lot of moisture inside the home. Bathing, showering practices contributing to moisture. Drying clothes, specifically in winter, more water vapours is caused in the home because of drying clothes. Cleaning, so when we clean, we'd have moisture inside the product that we're using or on the rag. Overcrowding, so the number of people, the occupancy rate of the home. The larger number of people, the more people you have breathing, the more showers, baths you have, the larger number of meals maybe you have to cook, all contributing to increased moisture in the home. One of the biggest causes that we find as Green Doctors, because we support people in fuel poverty, is a lack of heat or a lack of income to actually heat the home adequately. That's known to cause more cases of damp mould inside the home. And also I'd say perhaps a lack of knowledge in how to prevent and deal with that particular issue of condensation or damp inside the home.
Okay, so we've got a house that has mould. What is some of the health implications that can be caused by that?
Yeah, the health implications are quite wide and quite serious as well. Some of those would be things like respiratory conditions, so things like asthma, COPD, coughing, wheezing. And I think it really needs to be known that not only do damp mould conditions inside the home worsen existing illnesses, but they can also be known to actually cause particular illnesses. So there's research shown that actually damp mould inside the home would actually cause cases of asthma, which weren't there previously. It could make like mental health conditions worse. Living in a cold, damp home can be very stressful, cause anxiety and depression. It can cause cardiovascular issues like heart palpitations. It can worsen things like skin conditions. Eczema, for example, can be flared by the mold spores inside the home, and tragically it can lead to death, as we've seen in the case of Awa Bishak in 2020. Quite a startling fact, really. The illnesses linked to cold, damp and dangerous homes cost the NHS more than $2.5 billion every year, and that's about 6.9 million per day.
That's shocking, especially when a lot of those could be preventable. So the Green Doctors at Groundwork Yorkshire regularly carry out in-person home visits on houses that may have issues with damp, mold and condensation. So what advice would a green doctor give to a person, and what further support is available for those households?
Yep, our Green Doctor service takes the issue of damp mould condensation very, very seriously. So much so that we have specifically trained some of the Green Doctor advisors to become experts in delivering damp mould condensation advice and actual bespoke reports. And the kind of advice that we'd give within the homes kind of typically would follow what we call the HIVE model. So HIVE is an acronym, and it stands for heating, insulation, ventilation and excess moisture. So to manage condensation, you would maintain a consistent heating if you're able to afford that, and that would generally be recommended to be between 18 and 21. You try to ensure that you had proper insulation to prevent heat loss, so that's loft insulation, cavity wall insulation. You would attempt to improve ventilation by circulating fresh air, so it's taking the damp, mouldy air out and replacing it with fresh air, and try to reduce activities that create excess moisture. So typically those could be things like shorter shower times. So we'd recommend on average to shower for about 4 minutes. When having a bath, I really like this one. So when having a bath, just run the cold water in before putting in the hot water. It's very, very simple, but it significantly reduces the amount of steam and condensation that's produced. It's a great tip. Things like improving the airflow inside the home. So that could be where we've got furniture that's near walls, or we've got furniture that's next to radiators. We really want to allow the air to flow properly and to circulate. When we're cooking, keep the lids on the pans. Drying clothes, I've mentioned about drying clothes in winter. Try not to put those on directly on top of the radiator, because that creates more water vapor inside the home, and it also reduces the functionality of the actual radiator in terms of producing heat. Ventilate the property regularly, so I've mentioned that about using trickle vents, and we have something called shock ventilation, where if people open like windows and doors for say 10 minutes per day, it really does make a huge difference. It allows that damp air to be released from the home, fresh air to come in, and it really does significantly reduce the cases of damp mould. And we've done some findings where you can actually open the windows and doors for 10 minutes, and that fresh air coming in is actually contributing to heating the home rather than cooling it down. It sounds in contrast to the actual advice, but it does actually work. Use extractor fans, and one of the big things really is like close the doors. If you're cooking in the kitchen, close the door, and similarly in the bathroom, if you're bathing, close the door, because that prevents the actual condensation, the water vapor and the steam escaping from that room, and then that will go to find the cold spot inside the home where it'll accumulate and form mould. And I really would say the advice that we give is be proactive. Where you do see condensation on the windows or on the walls, wipe it down before it has a chance to accumulate and turn into more serious mould conditions. Use dehumidifier if necessary.
Oh, so that's some really good advice there, Simon. Thank you. So if households want to access the support of the Green Doctors, how do they go about that?
Yep, if you'd like to contact the Green Doctor service to receive a home visit or telephone or video consultation, please call us on 0300 303 3292, or complete our online referral form at www.groundwork.org.uk/Green Doctor. If you do contact us, then we can make an assessment, we can advise, and if necessary, we can refer the case to either the housing provider, the landlord if you're a private tenant, or we can recommend a professional mould removal treatment service.
Oh, some really good services there. So a recent government report states that houses in the private rented sector have a higher chance of having damp mould issues. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I think the survey that you're referring to there is the one that was released by Health Equals in October 2025, And staggeringly, that revealed that 28% of people in the UK report living in homes with damp, mould or cold. That's 1 in 4, or 15 million people in the UK live in homes with issues of damp, mould. And that correlates very strongly to what we see with the Green Doctor service, where around 30% of the home visits that we make have some kind of damp, mould issue going on there. The reasons for that, I think I would correlate those findings with levels of fuel poverty. Because within that survey that you mentioned there, the highest prevalence of damp mould were in areas such as the West Midlands and Yorkshire and Humber, which also have the highest levels of fuel poverty. So you've got people from the lowest income households, which are almost twice as likely to live in homes with issues of damp mould, and 4 times as likely to live in a cold home than the highest income households. So I'd say one of the main factors for the rise in damp mould cases has risen in relation to rising energy costs. And we've seen approximately a 65% increase in energy costs since 2020-21, with estimates now between 7 and 9 million households in fuel poverty. So I think that's a direct relation. Rising energy costs, low income, poverty is linked very strongly to damp mould condensation issues. We've got other factors, of course, things like climate change. We have wetter, milder winters, and obviously damp mould condensation is more prevalent in the winter. So where you've got an increase of milder winter, increase in humidity, that can have knock-on effects in terms of damp mould condensation in the home. Another reason could be when we've got new homes which are very heavily insulated, which is a great thing, obviously, to prevent heat escaping. But they may not have adequate ventilation systems, or if they do, people may not be so trained or have the knowledge on how to use those ventilation systems properly, and that could be contributing to an increase of damp mould condensation.
So, Awaab's law came into effect on the 27th of October 2025. So can you give us a summary of what the law sets out and what the government are planning to do in the future?
Yep, I'd just like to say this law, Awaab's law, is a very welcome law. And one of the main things, really, in summary, is it's all about timescales. It's all about the speed in which, and this relates to social housing providers at this point. It relates to the speed in which cases of damp mould condensation, once they're reported, have to be acted upon. So things like what we would call Category 1 hazards, things like damp and mould, have to be acted upon within fixed timescales. And so if it's deemed to be an emergency repair, that has to be done within 24 hours. And they would have to investigate potential significant hazards within 10 working days. And then they've got a very limited period then in which they have to report on those, and then actually to begin out the safety work that's necessary. In terms of like what's going ahead in the future, we've got in 2026 where the requirements will expand to a wider range of hazards beyond damp and mould. That's things like excess cold in the home, excess heat, trips, falls, injuries, structural collapse, fire, electrical hazards. And then we're also going to have the law extended into the private rented sector in the near future.
That's really good that things are starting to be put into place to kind of tackle these issues. So thank you again for joining us today, Simon. I'm sure many of our listeners will appreciate the information and advice that you have shared with us today in today's podcast, and could really help them on their journey if they have got homes with damp mould and condensation. So just a reminder that if you want to access the Green Doctor services, please call us on 0300 303 3292 or complete our online referral form at www.groundwork.org.uk/Green Doctor. I've been your host, James Kirk, and thank you again for listening today. And thank you, Simon.
Thank you.